Thousands of activists marched through Midtown Manhattan, down Fifth Avenue's Billionaires Row, and toward Trump Tower in New York to make billionaires pay, calling for climate justice, democracy, free speech, gender equality, a stop to the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, and a ceasefire in Gaza.
Eat the rich, that's the main message. The ultimate cause of a lot of these problems are the same ones. It's the billionaires, it's the tech companies, it's the fossil fuels.
We're being really intentional in this mobilization, in this coalition, to talk about the reality of the ways that climate crisis and economic fights and immigrant fights are all really one big fight.
I'm fighting for not only our right to survive, but our right to thrive as Indigenous peoples and bring back our culture, bring back our languages. My daughter, she's 12, she told me, you know what, Mom, don't worry, because one day I'm going to be president and I'm going to make sure that these things don't happen to our relatives. And it just made me cry. I was like, yes. You know, that's what we're doing. We're teaching our future generations not to be afraid and to stand up for what is right. And that's bottom line why I'm here.
They're not the generation that's going to have to pay. It's my generation that's going to have to pay for the consequences of their actions. That's why we do not listen to these billionaires and why we have to stand up, because collective action works, protesting works.
What we want is for billionaires to pay for their climate crimes and to fund the climate solutions that are going to keep our communities safe.
I came here to make billionaires pay and to stop fascism, to make the rich pay their taxes so that we're able to have affordable housing, fair wages, and clean air for us to breathe.
This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like.
We're here today to say that the decisions that impact everyday New Mexicans shouldn't be made here in Manhattan skyscrapers by billionaires who have no stake in what happens in these communities.
Good evening. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Environmental Coffee House. It's good to see all of you. Kim, thank you for moderating. Looney Tunes, thank you for being here and moderating. And hello, my friends. So my show this evening on Saturday evening in the beginning of October is about Climate Week. What happened in New York City, some of the highlights that I thought were interesting and things that I thought were pertinent to communicate to you guys, to learn about it, because very often you see little bits and pieces out there, but you don't really understand the big picture. And as you saw in the opening video, there was a lot of protesting and a lot of young people. Can't take this away from the young people. This is what they are wanting. They want action. They want activism. They want something. They want to see something. So that's why I started with what happened in New York City. And then we're going to talk about Jane Goodall, Jane Goodall, big part of my life growing up. Jane Goodall, wow, she meant a lot to me. And it seemed to me as a kid that we got to see everything about Jane in our classrooms. You know, they showed so much about her science and the baboons and the work and the gorillas and the things that she did were just incredible. She was incredible. So R.I.P. Jane, I know you're somewhere, but you were 91 years old and you lived a beautiful, long life. And you gave us gifts that are immeasurable, gifts that we could not probably have gotten without you. So thank you, Jane. So I'm going to get started. I want to talk a little bit about Climate Week. And I have some notes. All right. So what I saw about this, first of all, I have a lot of videos. I have a lot of things. But it was pretty much, of course, this is like a corporate kind of meeting, politicians, business people, but we'll get there. I'm just saying that I saw that the major themes from what I saw in my research and watching videos and all, were promises. They've made promises and promises and promises, and that's what the kids are all pissed off at, because it's always promises and nothing happens. They're very angry. The kids are learning. The young people are learning about the billionaire class. They're seeing the injustices. They are seeing what's happening. And those that are not stuck in a small evangelical bubble that can actually get outside that bubble, understand the bigger picture. And it's very sad that there are so many people that believe all of the propaganda and bullshit. But so the promises this week, it was implementation. And I think there was a push to move beyond these simple pledges. And there were a lot of sessions focused on how to scale these solutions. They call them, solutions. And that's what this whole thing is about. Integrate them into infrastructure and policy and ensure accountability. Vogue Business had a really good article on this whole thing. And also, they talk about reliability, affordability, durability. And these three terms kept on surfacing all week, because you need reliable energy, you need affordable energy, and you need it to be durable. And a lot of the controversy is over subsidies and, you have to subsidize wind and you have to subsidize solar. But we've been subsidizing fossil fuels to the tune of billions. And, it's funny how we can hear somebody say, oh, well, we've only paid for 3 years, it was up to $50 billion to fossil fuels, but from 2025 to 2035, it'll be $300 billion. But, break it down. I think the statistics are a little bit different. Are there problems with energy? As I always say, there's problems with all energy. But I'm reporting on Climate Week. So they want what they call clean energy, resilience, and solutions that are not just green, but, cost effective for people. Now, of course, you know how I feel about all this. I've talked about this, where I think all energy should be nationalized and it should not be for profit, because we're to the point where for profit has destroyed the planet. It really has. I do think that you guys understand if you follow this channel. We wreck the planet with all this profit. They talked about a circular economy and materials innovation. That was one thing I liked when I was looking with the fashion, textiles, plastics, reuse, recycling, new materials. That was a big thing. And we're going to look at some plastics, because all of us hate plastic. We all hate it. We're all full of it in our bodies. We're full of microplastics. So there are innovative companies that are out there that are doing these things. And there was some pushback to the polarization of the United States. I mean, our country is contradicting everything, but it's maybe not everybody. It's, of course, the government. And I did play clips on another video about what the orange turd said, which was embarrassing. It was awful. What he said at the UN, between the UN speech and the speech that he gave for the military, the man's losing it. And he just repeats himself. And he went and, to tell other countries that if you do the green scam, you're going to lose your country. We're losing our country. The rest of the world is laughing at us. And when you see those world leaders come to visit the orange turd in his office, it's all financial. It's all a financial thing. It's all money. It's all greed. But it's business, big business. And our country has become big business. It's always been big business. But also another thing, since we're pulling back on our climate commitments, it really did cast a bit of a shadow. I was watching a couple of videos that were done before he spoke and after. And before, there was a little bit more upbeat kind of attitude in some of these people, and then after it was like, oh God, I think the business leaders may have expected him, but maybe not to be this awful, but they've heard the song and dance. And then a big thing was equity, justice, and community voice, but it's limited, but it's a big thing, and that's why people are out there in the streets. These panels this whole week, it was busy. And there is somebody that follows us called Clean Titans. I don't know much about Clean Titans yet, but they were there. And so was Nate Hagens. I wasn't. But there were people that were there. And I'd like to talk to Clean Titans because Clean Titans wrote and said it was great. And Indigenous people, that there were justice framings, labor and climate intersection, but there was underrepresentation of frontline communities. And that's why I'm going to play a clip from a Dr. Beverly Wright, who's from Louisiana. And she's the head of a climate organization. And I had to clip it and play it. I will play it for you because I really did like her. I thought she was terrific. So, they had this, these net galas, and they had natural, whatever, the round tables, and fashion CEO agenda, actually, because a big thing that people talk about is the, fast fashion. And I don't know, you've probably seen, I've made a video about everything in 9 years. And the one video I made showing how in India and other countries, the fast fashion is just polluting. They get recycled stuff. It's overwhelming, and it doesn't go away because as the science got better with the type of material for clothing, nobody realized how this stuff never went away. It's probably what I'm wearing. Probably what I'm wearing right now is a piece of shit fast fashion. I don't know. It's a black. I'm wearing black. I'm wearing black probably on every show because I am in mourning. I'm in mourning for this country. I am, really. I probably wear black every day, every show. And what was really funny was MasterCard was there. MasterCard, who, if you're anything like me, you owe a little bit of money to. And but they said it was called Start Path Expansion and Plastic Free Database. I'm going to show you one website that's quite interesting. MIT, they had their innovation showcase. They displayed cutting edge research that they have, startup work on carbon removal, which, I'm on the fence about carbon removal. Most of it is bullshit. But the natural stuff like algae, anything natural, I do like. Absolutely. But energy storage, that's important. Low carbon mineral extraction, we're going to do more on this in another show. Because now that the Orange Turds administration opened up all these millions of acres of federal land for mining, and I think they're coal mining, we have to be extremely diligent on what we pay attention to. And Yale. Now, this is really interesting that Yale, they were at Climate Week because they were talking about scaling solutions and research, translation, policy, global partnership. But yet Yale capitulated to the Orange Turd. And now that the Energy Department forbids you to use the words climate change or emissions, isn't Yale watching their ass? But it's all about business. And if Yale decides, well, we're going to partner with companies that see that this is where we're headed, maybe they don't have to rely on federal grant money, Then there's a company series, and I'm going to show you them. they championing the clean economy. This is what was happening. And they had a major event, and I will be looking over their page. And the Environmental Defense Fund, they were there. They showcased tech and satellite vessel tracking and data collection, which are being leveraged to support climate resilience monitoring and transparency. Now, you know, one of the things I think about is people are still flying to these things. And there was a section on, I guess, I don't know, hydrogen or whatever it was for biofuel for flying. And I didn't pull it up. I was going to pull up FlightAware and show you at any one time, but you probably all know any one time, I was going to pull up the East Coast, which I did not do. How many airplanes are in the air at one time? It's insane, the amount of flying. And I watch a lot of aviation. I've told you this before. I watch a lot of aviation videos. I'm very interested in aviation, particularly accident debriefings and what happens. You know, aviation is a lot of physics. It's very interesting. Not that I like to look at the accidents, but I like the breakdown. And when I look at the engines on these planes and the sophistication of these airplanes, I just don't see how there's going to be any kind of fuel that will power these monsters or the planes in the military. I just don't see it. But I haven't researched it enough, but I don't see it. The only thing I see is that we're going to have to stop flying. Just like Scott said, if you watch my show with Scott, and he talked about veganism, and that was something that was talked about in Climate Week. Karen, you watch the pilot debriefs too. I love it. Somebody else that's nerdy like me. But anyway, so I probably will do more work on aviation and what is being looked at, because I just don't see it happening. I think that we really do have to go towards, like Dr. Kevin Anderson, climate scientist, doesn't fly anymore. You can do it all technologically, like I'm doing with you. We can have these meetings. I know there's a lot of things that you can't do without being in person, but eventually it's just got to stop. It's got to slow down. It's got to scale down, or it's just going to keep going until we just don't. So there were also, the talk about the U.S. The international people, they push forward. They're pushing forward, but are retreating. The rollback of funding and all this skepticism, which is disgusting, loomed over many conversations, and there were tensions between global climate expectations and our domestic politics. Reuters reported on that, and I have that article picked out. And discussions on bridging gaps, national, subnational, city, public, private, policy, capital, global, local. I mean, it's all business because it's all investments. A lot of the videos I watched with the business people specifically talked about investing. Where there is money to be made, the investors will be there. So I think, though, there were missing people, and the talk was about their justice, equity, and all that, but there was low representation of farmers and indigenous people and residents of climate affected regions in decision making or leadership spots. That's pretty much why I wanted to pull up Beverly and play her. So because, you know, these voices are sidelined and nobody ever talks about this. So I'm going to play Dr. Beverly Wright because I thought she was fantastic, and I still haven't pushed my button to get my videos. So let's watch Beverly. Looney Tunes, I thought of you the whole time. I was putting together this video of Dr. Wright because she is talking about Louisiana. And she's right. And this is something that, you know, it happens in other countries, but I'm in the United States, and Cancer Alley is a real thing. So let's watch Dr. Wright. She's fantastic. And wait till you hear how old she is. I freaked out because she looks friggin' great.
I'm very happy to be here. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Beverly Wright. I'm the Executive Director of the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice in New Orleans, Louisiana. I've been told it's the favorite city for most people. It is for me. But I also live in Cancer Alley, which is an 85-mile stretch of land between New Orleans and Baton Rouge that's now home to 156 petrochemical plants and 6 refineries. And the people who live there suffer very much from pollution. Specifically, a day and a life in Cancer Alley is one that's normal in a certain type of way. But the other way it's abnormal is that we have one of the highest cancer rates in the nation. We have a pollution that's indescribable. We have explosions from industrial facilities. But we also have people who don't have voice. When you talk about democracy, democracy means power to the people. Well, Cancer Alley happened because people don't have power, and they don't have the proper connections to authorities, meaning government or people who are supposed to represent them. We have not been represented for hundreds of years, moving from slavery to Jim Crow to discrimination. Those things have continued. Thousands and thousands of acres of land has actually been stolen from Black people in Cancer Alley, but we are still there. The good news is that we have never given up. We started working, my center did 31 years ago, and at that time, the chemical corridor was filled with 800 million pounds of pollution into the air, water, and soil. After working very hard, building the capacity of communities to have voice, it's down to about 200 million pounds, but guess what? That's about the same amount of pollution that's in all of Texas. So you have an 85-mile stretch of land where people are very sick, they have rare cancers, and we don't get the support that we should get from universities who have the opportunity or the ability to conduct research that actually supports making life better. When you have a town that's really owned by the petrochemical industry, they grow their own politicians, we're in a really tough place for change. The good news is we're not giving up, and we are connecting with people locally, nationally, internationally to get our message out, and we're trying to come together with strategies, even in times that are as tough as these. We have to keep working towards that, and we will. I certainly believe that it's possible. It has everything to do with whether or not we have the will. And in order to have the will, we have to change the narrative. I think that our biggest problem is that we have not been successful in changing the narrative. And one of the things that may help us will be young people like Wawa. I think it's too late for old people like me. I don't mean to say that, you know, I don't think it's too late for me, but I think it's too late for other old people like me, because I'm ready. But no, but it's going to require just a completely different conversation with young people. I was told that democracy requires an educated populace. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? The environment requires an environmentally literate populace. Mm. And we need to be working towards making certain that our children are educated properly so that they make the change. You know, it can't be change from the outside that we force on people. It has to be something that bubbles up from young people, you know, societies in general, just making decisions. Now, I think that Mother Nature, before it's over with, is gonna force us to make changes because it's gonna be too expensive and too destructive for us to stay on this same path. I'm hoping that we get there before Mother Nature gets us, but it's looking like that may not happen. So just having to learn to live the way we're living, we'll have to live with hurricane after hurricane, tornadoes, burning tornadoes. I mean, it's just amazing. I think we'll force the world to start thinking differently. And, my prayer is that the United States can rejoin the world and thinking about moving towards an economy that is fair and just and is based on an equitable, renewable transition. Being a grandmother for the first time at 77 years old, I'm so excited.
Did you hear that?
But I'm also worried. And I think most of us would like a better future for our children. It will require a different conversation. It will require international connections in the way that we've been trying to do. And the U.S. has been stepping back from that, which is very painful for those of us who've been doing this work for so long. Finding a way to change that narrative is absolutely what we need to do in order for us to survive.
I don't think it's hopium. I think she's talking from experience. She's talking from a lifetime of experience and seeing what's happened that's made everything worse where she is. Cancer Alley, the petrochemical industry. And it's like that around the world. Somebody had made a comment, I believe, I don't know if I didn't flag it, but there's many cancer alleys. Yes, there are. And it's, Orange Turd says, oh, I want clean air and clean water. How on earth are you going to have clean air and clean water when a judge, for example, a judge just ruled that it's okay on the Hudson River up from New York City, Indian Point, which is a closed nuclear reactor, can now dump 45,000 gallons. Oh, it might be more than that. 45,000 gallons, I think it was, into the Hudson of radioactive water. They say it's treated, but it's okay to dump it. It's okay. This is what we're seeing. And then with the EPA, with the rollbacks by Lee Zeldin, Chris Wright and Lee Zeldin, Department of Energy and EPA, the two of the guys, two of the horsemen of the apocalypse now, worse than the first term, totally worse than the first term. So this is what's happening. So, I mean, this is going to happen in the United States where we worked so hard. And I lived through this 1970s, seeing people paying attention to what was happening, to all the pollution and all these laws starting, and Nixon signing in the EPA, and it was something to behold. And now, where are we going? Where are we going? Backwards. And they don't care. And that's what makes you think it's a conspiracy, like they know. So if they know, let's just ram it. Let's just use everything up. Let's just kill the planet. We're all going anyway. Boom, I'll be dead. I mean, he's 80 years old, Orange Turd. Everybody in his administration is older, except that one kid, I think, that's in, I don't know what department he's in, but anyway, I thought Dr. Beverly, was wonderful. And I'm going to write to her. I would love to have her on as a guest. She was inspiring to me. And let's see. Oh, Tommy, I can't see I've changed the text color. Hang on. Let me change the text color. Sorry. We will change it to black. Okay, I agree with her, but I don't see capitalists allowing for that kind of change she proposes. In fact, I think they will oppose those changes with violence. Yeah, well, that's the way we are now. It's very sad. But she was talking from her heart. She was talking from her gut. And, and I have to tell you guys, we actually have 97 watching because I'm on Facebook and X. And there are people that are watching and learning, and I'm glad. I'm really glad. That makes me happy. And if you're not agreeing, at least be quiet and listen and learn. So I have a couple of more videos. I'm going to play another one, and then we're going to go to a couple of articles. I'm going to set it up. Like usual, I'll probably set it up, and you'll probably hear it because I didn't do it. One of these days, I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to friggin' work on all this stuff. I need to do a couple of things. I need to learn how to do Substack, to video on Substack when I'm doing a show. And I need to set up the Stream Deck. I'm so busy all the time with so many things. So we're going to watch this. This was another one that I thought was pretty interesting.
City, the annual event, partners with the United Nations General Assembly and brings together business, political, and civil leaders from all around the world, all to collaborate on climate action and policy. Now, this year, many of the week's speakers, they've been focused on the transition to clean energy. However, President Trump denounced that idea during his address Tuesday at the UN.
It's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world, in my opinion. Climate change, no matter what happens, you're involved in that. No more global warming, no more global cooling. All of these predictions made by the United Nations and many others,
flush him,
often for bad reasons, were wrong. They were made by stupid people that have cost their countries fortunes and given those same countries no chance for success. If you don't get away from this green scam, your country is going to fail.
For more on this, let's bring in Bill Ritter. He is the former governor of Colorado. He also chairs the board for the nonprofit climate group North America, which hosts the official Climate Week program. Governor Ritter, Bill, thank you very much for being here with us. You heard the president right there calling green energy and climate change the greatest con job in the world. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, no matter how many times you say it or how you say it, it doesn't make it true. And that's really proved out by all the people who do come to Climate Week to have a very serious discussion about how to address a very global issue. And there's really two parts to that. One part of it is just looking at all of the business interests that are represented here. There are investment banks from around the world. There are corporate leaders. There are corporations that are involved even in, trying to figure out how they reduce their emissions. They're from the Northern Hemisphere, the Southern Hemisphere. They're from all over the globe. And there are political leaders. So heads of state. We have, governors, senators. We had great panels with locals, with mayors, because they're really closest to the ground on the impact of climate change. And so you look at all the serious interests represented there from around the globe, and you say, one person and one person's administration saying it isn't so doesn't make it so, because the rest of these people look at the evidence on the ground that climate change is real. The second part of it is there's a business case to addressing it. People don't want to miss this opportunity because this really is a place where there's an energy transition. It's a global energy transition. The dollars that are represented by the money that can be made off of getting ahead of this are significant.
So, as you see, why I played that clip was because it is about dollars and cents. And that's the bottom line in the so-called energy transition.
Very significant way. I mean, China understands this. India understands this. Good part of Europe all understand this. And yet, at the federal level, the leadership that we're seeing that's lacking here is costing us to be part of a global competition.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. I mean, the rhetoric and the dialogue around climate change and green energy has changed so much here in the States these past few months, especially. Is that the case internationally? How is that being perceived there?
Well, it's interesting. Internationally, I think most people still really understand that this is an important issue to deal with. There are places where and it's interesting, there are places where the government is somewhat of a populist, authoritarian rule, and they're not addressing climate change, in part because it's just not a popular thing sometimes to try and deal with as an issue for the people on the ground. And yet, China is now manufacturing over half of all the EVs in the world and selling them into markets where we could actually sell into those markets if, in fact, we were trying to compete with them. Again, India is very concerned about its emissions and trying to bring those emissions down. The leaders are really trying to do things that they can do to bring their emissions down. In Africa, they have not been part of the problem. So what they're saying is we're having the worst impacts visited upon us in places in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, even the coast of Africa, and yet we weren't part of the problem. So how do we have this global conversation about compensation, about the things that we need to do to handle the impact that's coming our way? And that's the rest of the globe. Like,
it's a very important conversation. And former Colorado Governor Bill Ritter, we really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for meeting with us here.
When I watched that, I kept thinking about Cyndi Lauper and money changes everything. And I wanted to play the clip, but I thought maybe I would get a copyright even if I played it quickly. But you see, it's all business. It's all about money. You know, Lyle Lewis talks about the ecology of what's happening and the energy transition. And yes, Tommy, I know Bill Reese says there's no energy transition. Obviously, I interviewed him. There's a lot of differences, and that's my job, is to bring all the voices, and you make up your mind on whose voice resonates with you, with facts, not alternative facts, real facts. And you know, there is somewhat of an energy transition because I feel that even in myself, with going electric and having backup batteries and not having generator that's propane and stinks and you have to have it outside. And in my little place, my little town where I live, I've noticed, and this is very red here, but I've noticed solar panels on houses that I didn't think would ever have solar panels. So there is somewhat of a transition. You can't stop it. And what I learned from watching these things like COP, and, you know, COP is different than Climate Week, is that the business leaders, they're all going to do it, no matter what we feel about. And I know how we feel about ecology and the planet and Earth and deep green ecology. And what I would like deep down inside and what I think it feels is not relevant to the conversation, because the conversation is about what is happening. I'm reporting on what is happening, not my opinion. It's what's happening. And these are business leaders. These are people from all over. And if there's money to be made, it's going to happen. I don't know, I'm not like this hopium freak that thinks, oh yeah, there's a technological solution for everything, we can keep going. I just don't know enough about the technological aspects. That's why I learn. That's why I like to bring all kinds of different voices to you. If we don't hear, as long as they're factual, I mean, these people are there, they're doing it anyway. And I have another one to set up. This is a quickie. This is a real quickie because hang on. It's going to happen.
Today, almost half of Europe's power comes from renewables. Solar and wind are our fastest growing sources of energy. And with our Clean Industrial Deal, we are mobilizing over 100 billion euros to help industries innovate and adapt. We are staying the course. And this ambition and the stability is attracting capital. These days, stability and predictability are very important values. Investments in renewables grew by 63% this year alone. But we know that more has to be done. For example, we have to invest heavily in our grids, in the interconnectors, so that the benefits of clean, affordable energy can reach every corner of our union and the energy is flowing to where it is needed the most. So my message to you, the CEOs and investors that are here today, is please tell us what you need, what guarantees, what risk-sharing tools, or what is the regulatory conducive environment that you need, we can provide, that will allow you to invest at scale where it matters most.
So it's what's on the table. It's what's for dinner. But what I would like to see happen and what's actually happening are different things, completely different things. But the United States will be left behind. Or the businesses, capitalism will run like it always has. And, let's see, Tommy, what are you saying? What is happening is that business people are going to tell people lies about how green energy will allow businesses. Well, we know this, but this is it. We understand that business as usual is a problem. But I'm reporting, and this is what I do here. I'm reporting on it. But we can definitely have this little conversation after towards the end, because we're gonna actually do a bit on Jane and remembering her. But before we do that, I'm going to change screens, and I'm going to talk about a couple of the companies that are, all right, hang on. All right. So here's one company that is making things without plastic, supposedly. The average American produces 5 pounds of waste per day. It's time to rethink the way we consume. Now, we always complain about this. We have a huge problem with microplastics. We have a huge problem with landfills. We have huge problems all over the world. Is this probably expensive? Yes. Will it be? Who can really afford this shit? I don't know. Will it become regular occurrence? Will we get rid of plastic? I mean, plastic takes oil. Wanda made a comment earlier, and where is it? She said, they do realize only 18% of energy is used to produce electricity. We stop all fossil fuels. We got no insides of our cars, tires, roads, blah, blah, blah. Good. I wanted to put that up because this, it's interactive. It's Saturday night. You're here with me. And she made a good point. We're not going to be able to just stop fossil fuels. It's just not going to happen. It isn't. It's not going to happen. But this is a company, they say, we make your everyday routines cruelty-free and plastic-free, zero waste store, vegan, things that all of us in this audience like. Okay, we hate plastic. I hate it. And I buy the cat food, and it's always either in these tins, fine, the little tins, which got smaller, but then they're lined with plastic. Or you buy the stuff they like, and it's in these plastic cups. They are recyclable because they're clear. But I mean, we have a problem. So if a company is going to say, okay, I'm going to try to make all this shit, okay, why not? We are living in a capitalist consumer economy. And around the world, there are other countries. Listen, we know there's so many countries where they can't even afford a regular bar of soap. I mean, people are feeling pain everywhere on the planet. And then we could even talk about the war-torn countries, but for another night. So right here, this is probably for, the wine drinking upper class, or people that have a little money, that have a conscience. But I'm one of those. I just have only a little money. But you see, and I do absolutely use shampoo bars. I don't use shampoo. I use these bars. I wash my hair with those. I don't use plastic containers. I'm getting rid of those. This is interesting. This is laundry detergent sheets. I use a powdered laundry detergent that comes in a gigantic thing. It's a plastic tub, but you can use it over after. This is what reusable paper towels. So there's companies, they were there at Climate Week, whip up something good without the waste. And I'm not selling these people. Selling. I don't have any sponsors. Obviously, I have a tiny little channel of how many people are even watching. 106 people total. I mean, that's like, it is what it is, right? and I hate that statement. But reusable disinfectant wipes, I don't know how they work, but this is a company trying to do something. Bamboo toilet paper. It's expensive, though, So the thing is, all of these things are expensive, and you can't go down to the dollar store and get them. That's a big problem. You can't go to the dollar store. But these, Better Homes and Gardens Bazaar, Refinery 29 today, TZR, Vanity Fair, a little upper class, but it's a start. People realize you cannot, and here, Sarah founded it. So people are caring in their businesses. And then this is Ceres. This is this is a company that was there. They were big. They hosted a full day residency at the Nest Climate Campus. But wait a minute, I want to read about their work. And wait, where's the about them? Who we are. Okay, let's see. They are a nonprofit advocacy organization working to accelerate the transition to a cleaner, more just and resilient world. I mean, they're wonderful sounding words. We make the business case for action on the most pressing sustainability challenges facing our economy today. Climate change, water scarcity, which is happening here where I live. We are in a drought, and it is not fun. It is terrible. My garden is just about dead. And we had a frost, but water scarcity, pollution, nature and biodiversity loss. Biodiversity loss is huge. It's probably, all of these things. But biodiversity loss is what Lyle Lewis talks about. Biodiversity loss is what Derek Jensen talks about. I mean, we're killing the planet. And any company, because of what we live in, because we are capitalist, we are not changing overnight. Any company that's going to try to make something better, it's better than being fossil fuel industry, and it's better than being a petrochemical company, and it's better than being a chemical company and polluting like what's happening in Louisiana that Dr. Beverly Wright talks about. So they are inspiring investors and companies to act on these global challenges and advocate for market and policy solutions because that's what they believe in. And that's really every day in this country. This is what the United States is. Based on market, it's all the Western countries, right? So they want to transform industries, unlock new business opportunities, and foster innovation and job growth. Providing that sustainability is the bottom line. I know that a friend of ours hates the word sustainability, and it's out there. Climate, water, and nature risks financially impact investment portfolios and corporate bottom lines, you'll think, from business operations to supply chains. By addressing these risks, investors and companies can safeguard their long-term profitability and maintain a competitive edge in the global market while also taking advantage of the enormous business opportunities to drive innovation and economic growth. While individuals, communities, and policymakers have essential roles in environmental stewardship, investors and companies remain uniquely positioned to deliver high-impact solutions. So they work with the people with the money. They work with the money. They also had Sheldon Whitehouse talk at their one of their things. So this is what's happening out there. We're not stopping it, obviously. What are we going to do? Scream and yell it's not going to work? I mean, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to report on it. I'm interested in learning about what everything is, every aspect of pretty much everything under the environmental umbrella, right? Try to bring it to you. But they do a lot in this company and advocate for public policies that support an advanced clean economy. We're never going to have a clean economy. I mean, I just can't see, that it does sound a little bit of hopium and it does sound a little bit of greenwashing and bullshit, but it is what they do. And there's a lot of people involved and a lot of money. And what did they do? and they have a lot of experts, but at the climate thing, they had speakers, and I'm not going to play it, but if you want to, when I do the show notes, you'll see that Sheldon Whitehouse was there at Climate Week, and there were a lot of people probably that flew in on unsustainable, climate polluting jets. But they did have. And I like Sheldon. I think he's been bringing the topic up to people in the Senate and Congress for years. People that don't listen. Probably an empty chamber, but I've been watching his videos for years. Yeah. Yep. So that was, they were at Climate Week, and a lot of people were. And so I had just another article. I'm not going to ruin everything by him, by the orange turd. But they're really awful. This administration is horrible. They canceled $13 billion of what's called green funding. Now, I would rather have our economy in the United States go towards these things rather than coal and fossil fuels and all of it. So it makes me sick. China, they're going to say hi. They're going to look at us in the rearview mirror and say, "See you later, suckers," like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Brazil, all these companies. Acumen raised $246 million to finance green power in 17 African countries, which we understand they're not the problem. These countries are not the problem. We are the problem. We are our little zero waste solutions, but we are the problem. So he called it the con job, a scam and all this other shit. But I wonder if he ever thought about that he could make money if he thought a different way. Because that guy is all about money, although I think he's losing it. And I think he's dementia riddled. Yeah, I do. But I'm not a psychologist. And interestingly enough, the psychologists that had a show on Really American. Now, I forgot what the show is called, but they did their last show last night because they're afraid of getting sued. Since Charlie Kirk died and the Trump administration is now after people, they feel that they are down. I mean, they get 50,000 views on their videos, and they're analyzing the orange turd, and they're afraid of being sued. And one of the doctors, that they're both psychiatrists or psychologists, said he's just retired from higher ed. He has no money. He doesn't have anybody backing him. The channel Really American does not have the kind of legal power of a big network like Jimmy Kimmel had, so they ended it. Analyzing Trump, I forgot what it was called. If anybody knows what the show was, I watched it last night. I never did watch it before, but it was interesting to me because I wanted to hear why. Because I'm on social media, and I do talk about Christian nationalism. And I do talk about, I talk about all the things they hate. I don't like the orange turd, but I don't think that I should be held. I mean, it's free speech. This is the country I grew up in. I grew up in a country where you could say these things and you could talk without fear of being arrested, without somebody coming and knocking on your door. That's a big problem. Yeah. So anyway, Climate Week attendees were confronted with fresh evidence, very much to the contrary of the Department of Energy, saying it's that nothing's happening and we're just going to have more fossil fuels and we're clean, green. We don't need that. But the planetary health boundaries, we are, perilous state Reuters is reporting of the Earth's vital support system. I want to do another show. I really do enjoy doing those shows on the planetary boundaries. The Health Check reviews 9 planetary boundaries, which we have talked about before, chosen by an international group of scientists to measure the health of the Earth. Crossing these planetary boundaries indicates that the safe operating space needed to maintain life on Earth is under serious threat. This year's update revealed that a new boundary has been breached. Levels of ocean acidification have accelerated to dangerous levels, with scientists assessing that acidity is increased by 30 to 40% since the beginning of the industrial era. You know, those scientists that Orange Turd calls stupid people? Yeah. We are in big trouble. They are ushering human extinction in. They are. They are the architects of near-term human extinction. This is the deep state. The Orange Turd administration is the deep state that they were all screaming about for how long? How long? Well, the deep state's got it. And he lied about Project 2025. And Project 2025 is behind a lot of the skepticism because they're all in cahoots with the Heartland Institute and the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Foundation. They are all in. They're all in it. They're all in it. And it's not a conspiracy. So it's very sad. Ocean acidification is pretty serious, and hopefully Jim and I can talk about it, but if only climate change was a hoax, lamented Richard Branson, the British billionaire and philanthropist. Oh, we have one good one. One? And philanthropist at the launch of the report. Although there had been question of whether Climate Week should go ahead at all this year, amid security concerns for some overseas attendees. Pretty sick, isn't it? Organizers said that it was the biggest in the event's 16-year history with more than 1,000 side events. So that's all right. It was big and people weren't scared that they were going to get iced. But there it is. Much of the conversation focused on the need to persevere with the rollout of renewable energy. And by the way, renewable is, you know, when people say it's bullshit, okay, the word renewable only means that if your energy is from sun or wind, that renews. It doesn't get used up. You know, geothermal, it doesn't get used up. Fossil fuel, you get it from the ground, you drill it up, you use it, it's gone, it's done, you use it up. You can just keep using sun. The sun shines, and if it doesn't, you've got your batteries, which we all know have their problems because of the minerals. We've talked about that ad nauseum. I mean, and now, you know, with the mining opened up, who knows what they're going to mine for in our national parks. It's just terrible. I mean, if there was going to be a big protest or a concerted effort, get to the national parks. Lay down. Civil disobedience. Lay down. So, Xi Jinping announced a new emission reduction target when he talked. And he says the 7 to 10% by 2035 left some observers underwhelmed because it's almost going to be impossible. They're a gigantic country. We are a gigantic country. It's very, very difficult. Fossil fuels, they still lead the way. They do. They do. He was there. There's a speech he did. Gavin Newsom did it, but I wasn't going to show it, so because we're almost an hour. All right. So anyway, that was Reuters, and there was an article here. I'm going to I'll put it in the show notes because it was Parallel Universe collide in New York during Climate Week. And there was a couple of things he wrote. I witnessed 2 parallel universes collide with another hovering in the wings. The universes of today's polarized and split society. The old universe that reflects the post-truth era we live in, an era where politicians pretend to replace scientists and feel authorized to deny the existence, promoting theories founded on fabricated information, a universe where a large number of people destabilized by change let themselves be seduced by convenient populist narratives advocating business as usual and join identities built on false information and conspiracy theories as an antidote to uncertainty and fear for the future. The universe is reflected in the tragicomic performances at the UN Assembly Hall, where certain leaders are denying in front of the world all sorts of blatant realities, from climate chaos to famine and people suffering. Lies under the sun have become acceptable. In the old universe, ancestral tribalism is violently reemerging, with leaders prioritizing their own country and people, in reality more often their own faction against the rest of humanity, instead of calling for global cohesion and the concerted, ambitious action that's needed to address the global challenges everyone faces. I thought this was pretty good. They reject multilateralism and they reject a model of global cohesion and multilateral dialogue amongst countries. The institution of the United Nations is under serious attack, legitimately criticized for being overly bureaucratic, fragmented, and inefficient, but without an apparent alternative being proposed. I'm just waiting to see when the orange turd and his administration are going to try to kick them out of New York, and if they can. See, that's another thing I have to dig into. The United Nations, the charter, the property, everything about the United Nations. I'm very interested in what's happening, in what's going to happen. But, yeah, they want to get rid of it. They hate the UN. They do. This administration hates the UN. They hate anything that's They call it globalist. I'm sorry, but our planet is very small. Our planet is so small. We're all globalists. And the new universe is also assembling, not exactly through a big bang, but rather more quietly and progressively over the past several years, a universe of an increasingly forward-looking community of governments, individuals, and companies that refuse to look away and cannot deny the failures of our old economic system, the threats emerging for our future, and the need for change. This new universe struggles with building confidence in the transition and is frustrated by the slow pace of change and even angry at their impotence against the obstructionism of the old universe. The new universe was present and active in New York, outside the UNGA, across the multitude of events at the Climate Week. But how did it compare with previous better years? Well, 2025 broke records of attendance, which we said, a lot of people. And in discussions happening across the city, corporate representation was significant and vibrant. Climate and nature have entered a new dimension. I have seen them move from being a moral question and seen as doing the right things to PR exercises and brand protection to compliance, and finally they are increasingly perceived as linked to material risks and opportunities. Climate and nature biodiversity related risks are beginning to be part of the fiduciary responsibility of boards and legal risk oversight of CFOs and CEOs. I mean, just look at the insurance industry. They have entered the P&L strategy and business growth discussions, not just about risks, but also opportunities to do things differently, develop more sustainable technologies, practices, and products. See, it's going to happen. It's happening. I said it many years ago. I've been saying it. We can't stop any of it. We can learn about it. We're along for the ride. Do we want different things? Sure we do. I mean, I know what I want, but that's not what this is about. So we'll see. The focus is on building confidence in more companies and financial institutions to embark on a nature positive transition, and on equipping boards and management with tools to assess impacts, develop responses, and measure nature positive outcomes. So I think that I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is, he said, these leaders do exist. In New York, we met and heard them. And I did watch a lot of those videos over the last couple of days. Well, listen, yeah. Yep. So political headwinds come and go, but the issue will not. The impacts of climate change and nature loss on our economy, society, and individual well-being are large and evident today and will only worsen if unaddressed. Change is inevitable. We can resist it, sticking to today's nature negative business as usual development model and hope for the best. Oh yeah, hopium for the best. Knowing in our bones that it won't be good in any way for anyone ultimately, or choose to drive change towards a nature positive economy and future. It's time for our great choice. So there is a book, Becoming Nature Positive, Transitioning to a Safe and Just Future. Hey, and they say it's free. You can download it. So all this will be in the show notes. Okay. So now we are going to move over to Jane Goodall. And let's have like 10 seconds of silence for all of her good work, for all of the children that she changed. She changed my life. She changed everybody's life that were lucky enough and blessed enough. Jane, her most radical message was not about saving the planet. She used her stature to advocate for one of the most important yet most unpopular causes in the world. They know her, she was a primatologist, for her singular, field-defining work on wild chimpanzees. She first entered the field in the early 60s with no formal academic training at a time when influential scientific frameworks like behaviorism often viewed animals as little more than stimulus response machines. And I remember learning that in my undergrad, some of that behavioral theories. Uncovered by the scientific orthodoxy, she helped the world see chimps as socially and cognitively sophisticated creatures. Her work opened up space for scientists to understand animals as beings with interiority, although even today the approach is far from universally embraced. And I'm going to tell you, raising kittens, they think. And they think. I watch them. But she devoted herself to something more radical. Her recognition of animals' capacities was not just an abstract academic finding, but a practical, ethic, and moral imperative that led her to advocate for veganism, meat reduction, and animal rights. She despaired at the horrors of factory farming, calling it amongst the worst atrocities ever perpetrated by humanity. And she vocally opposed invasive animal experimentation, particularly on primates, a commitment that sometimes put her at odds with fellow scientists who believe that experimenting on animals remains essential to scientific discovery. But I don't think she was wrong. It's nothing but a living hell, she wrote in 2019 when she saw an animal testing lab in Germany. She was just good, though. If you remember her stuff, she was just amazing. Her studies were amazing. And she was 91. Dr. Goodall's, this is ABC, discoveries as an ethologist revolutionized science, and she was a tireless advocate for protection and restoration of our natural world, but really the animals. And factory farming, which is absolutely horrible. She said, I've been working on trying to make this a better world for animals, people, and the environment, flat out, since 1986, and one of my greatest reasons for hope in this battered world is the youth. And that's who all of this is for. And that's what a lot of these people forget. All of these older people that in the beginning of the show, when I played the young people that were out there protesting, who are so sick of the billionaire class, who are sick of these Donald orange turd Trump types in the administration, who are 80 years old. Time for Nancy Pelosi to go. I can't believe she's freaking running again. It's time to go. She was only 26 when she first traveled to Tanzania and began her important research on chimpanzees in the wild. I remember it was just, a lot of us do. A lot of us do. Yes, we do. They could make their own tools. They had individual personalities. Yep. Miss Goodall and the World of Chimpanzees, which was on CBS December 22nd, 1965. Ah, gosh. And there's her son. So she had a lifelong love of animals, and it was a big loss, and she was a wonderful person, and she did get her PhD, and she studied animal behavior. And her thesis was about the study at the Gombe Reserve. So she did it. Her whole life. Beautiful person. Beautiful person. Beautiful person. And I do have a little tribute video to play before we are done. And then we will...
Today, almost half.
See? I really hate that I do this. And I know it's just me being a procrastinator and lazy. But let's watch this and we'll come back and then we say goodnight.
Since I was 8 years old, I had dreamed of a magic world that no human had explored before. This was where I was meant to be.
And I'm very proud of the relationship that the Jane Goodall Institute has with UNESCO, which has gradually been building up to greater cooperation over the years. And it's so true. Today, the world is in such a state that no one organization can do it alone. We need to collaborate, we need to get together, we need countries and individuals to work together to make this a better world so that we can be a little bit proud of what we leave for our children. But first of all, because I'm absolutely sure that never before in this space has there been a proper acknowledgement that we humans are not the only beings on the planet. So I want to bring into this space the voice of the chimpanzee, the animal I've studied for so many years with my dedicated team. And what I'm going to say simply means this is me, this is Jane, because the chimpanzees have different ways of announcing their presence. So this is it's a distance call. It's very appropriate for you guys up in the balcony.
She will be missed. She brought a lot. And I sure hope that young people today and that the schools are still teaching about her work. I really do. I do. Okay, so a few comments. And let's see. I don't know. Wasn't there a primatologist that murdered? Think there was a movie made about her with Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, me too, but I don't know what movie that is. Great show tonight, Sandy. It's a keeper. And I'm sure to screen it to my friends who've been in transit today. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I want to educate. I want to bring you information, whether you agree with some of these things or not. The point is, these are the things that are happening. And these are the things that I will continue to bring you. And it's not all, I hate the orange turd. You know, there's so many things going on that, you know, even if it seems like it's a bunch of crap, you know, greenwashing, bullshit, whatever, there's still people out there that really do believe and are going to work as hard as they can to make these changes happen. Whether or not the big picture is bleak, whether or not you're a doomer adjacent, or you're any of those labels, it doesn't matter. These are things that are happening. The good, and there's bad, and there's ugly. Jane Goodall represented what was the best. She represented what was the best on this planet. And we love you too. We love you too, Karen. I hope you feel a little bit better. I mean, there are, you know, with all the negatives, there's a lot of positives. And yeah, money makes the world go around. And yeah, there's a lot of ugly things. But as long as there are people that are trying to make a difference, we'll find them. And even those people that don't care, we'll find them too. Yeah, you're late, Nadia. Good luck, everyone. Yeah. All right. It is Saturday. I will be back Tuesday. And then Antonia will be back with me next Saturday. And I don't know what my schedule is going to be. I'll see you on Tuesday night. It's really wonderful to be here. Oh, wait a minute. I did one flush. We'll do one more flush. I know, here. It just reminded me. Let's do one big flush. Hang on. Ba, 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 ba. We're going to flush the orange turd because of what he said. Because he's an embarrassing piece of shit. All right.